you know, when someone says you can't do it, I'm going to do it. When someone says a libertarian can't win, I'm going to do it. Okay? So, and you're going to see in this race, I'm going against a couple really weak opponents. Susan Brooks is a moderate establishment Republican who is not fully pro-life. In fact, she sits on a board that gave money to Planned Parenthood. Okay? And to tell you the truth, she says it's earmarked not to be used for abortions. But if I gave money to Al-Qaeda and said it's earmarked not to be used against America, it's still for terrorism. Okay? And I'd still be supporting terrorism if I did that. The other thing is, I got a video on my website, if you don't believe me, this is her own words. She supports bailouts. What you're going to see tonight from me, and I hope you, she said she thinks government should be in the job of job preservation. Government can't preserve jobs. Government only transfers jobs from this side to the other side. I was watching my daughter play in the sandbox yesterday, and she's taking water from this side, and she's going, and there's a little bridge in the middle. She's taking it and going like this, and I'm like, that's just like government stimulus. Taking it from this side to that side, it's the same pool, right? So, I mean, this is the Republican that you guys have on your ballot. And quite frankly, if you want a fiscal conservative this time around, you're going to see, you're going to have to vote on the libertarian ballot. You can't pull the straight ticket. Okay, it's time to stop doing the status quo, and you're going to see that from me tonight. One of my big things, before I get into my economics, is the Constitution. Okay, the Constitution is critical to the success of our country. And our founders, in their wisdom, they gave the federal government how many powers? 17 limited powers. And they said all other powers are reserved to states and the people. Okay, and that's stated in the 10th Amendment. And the way I see the 10th Amendment, it's like this. It's like a leash. Okay? And it's a leash on the government's neck that doesn't let the government get where it wants to go. Because the government always wants to get outside of its realm of authority, doesn't it? That's what we got a leash for it. Now imagine with me. Let's say you got a 300-pound bodybuilder on this side of the road, and he's got a mean pit bull that's barking at you. You're going to feel pretty safe, though. Even though it's a pit bull, that bodybuilder's got that dog on a leash. He ain't going to let it go, is he? Now imagine you got a 3-year-old girl over here holding that leash. You got a little bit of a reason to be scared that that pit bull is going to come maul you, right? Okay, and it's the same way. The 10th Amendment is a good leash. It's just as good as it was 200 years ago. The problem is the Republicans and the Democrats at the federal level have proven themselves completely unworthy of holding the leash. They've allowed the federal government to get into so many areas that it shouldn't be in. Okay, and when I talk about balancing the budget tonight, one of the easy things we got to do is just start cutting programs that are unconstitutional. Okay, rhetorically, the Republicans will say, yeah, it's unconstitutional, unconstitutional. They pass all kinds of bills that are unconstitutional. Okay, the Democrats do it more, right? I'm not picking on Republicans other than the fact that people think that they pass things that are constitutional, and they don't. Okay, it's time for us to take a stand and say, you know what? I don't care what's left or right. I care what's right or wrong. And what we're doing is wrong. Okay? And if you don't mind, I'm going to jump right in here, and I'm going to kind of break it up, have you guys ask questions in between. But I have just a lot of graphs here. And I want you to see a few things. You know, our founding fathers, they took limited government seriously. When they had to borrow $75 million to start the nation, they wanted to pay that off quickly. And in 1835, we were debt-free for 1 year. Debt-free in 1835. Then we had the Civil War. Right? And our debt went up. And since then, though, we kind of got it under control. And in 1900, federal spending only represented 1.8% of our total GDP. And what I mean is gross domestic product, like how much goods and services are produced in our nation, within our borders. Government spending was only less than 2% of everything we made. Okay? Then you got Woodrow Wilson, quite possibly the most progressive president of all time. He starts passing things like the income tax, the 16th Amendment. He puts the Federal Reserve into play, which, as you guys know, are you guys familiar with the Federal Reserve?
Oh, yeah.
I want a full audit of the Federal Reserve and eventually end it.
End it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look what happened. He gave them the power to tax, and they lied. So we're going to cap it at 1% for most Americans. Next thing you know, it's 7%. Next thing you know, we're where we are today, right? Okay, and then it's been a progression. You see big spikes during war times, and it gets under control. But look where we're at. We're at about 25% of our total economy is government spending now. In other words, government makes 25% of production decisions. How much freedom do you have to spend money the way you want right now? according to that?
75%.
75%. Now, it's not true for everyone. Some people don't pay taxes in America, as you know, and they're 100% free to use. Others pay up close to 70, 75% by the time you do everything, property taxes, sales tax, business taxes. By the time it's all said and done, they're paying way more. Okay, but look at the trend here. This is why I decided to stop yelling at the TV, to stop just wishing something's going to be done, is we don't have a choice here, guys. By 2040, it's estimated right up here that federal government spending is going to be 40% of our GDP. Seriously, 2/5 of every dollar that is produced in America is going to be decided on how it's spent by the government. Then by 2060, it's going to be near 60%. And by 2080, when your grandkids are grown and old, and they're senior citizens themselves, government is going to be accounting for 92% of production decisions. You know what the name for that is, don't you? Communism. Okay, at best you'd be 8% free to spend your money how you want. Now, this isn't Glenn Beck making a chart. This isn't someone on MSNBC making a chart. This is the Congressional Budget Office working with the Government Accountability Office. This is created by the nation's top accountant, and they have a reason to make things look better than advertised, right? Okay? And this is the number that they're showing us? You've got to be kidding me. Okay? And that's why, when I say we got to balance the budget in 2 years, some of you are like, well, that's just too much. This is where we're headed. Okay? This is the path that we're on.
I want it done tomorrow.
Exactly. It should be.
Really?
It really should be. Now, let me tell you this. How many of you guys like Paul Ryan? He's got a pretty good reputation with the Tea Party. Show of hands, just be honest. Be honest. Okay, now, the Paul Ryan plan is called what?
Paul Ryan plan.
The path to prosperity. Now, here's the joke. I got to be honest with you. The Paul Ryan plan is a complete, just smack in the face to everybody who calls himself a fiscal conservative. Here's why. It doesn't balance the budget until the year 2040. Are you serious? We're going to be here by 2040. It doesn't balance the budget for 28 years. That means for the next 28 years, we're going to be running budget deficits. Okay, here's the problem with that, guys. This is what our I put federal quote-unquote budget, because we haven't really had a budget for over 1,000 days. Right? This is just kind of a pie-in-the-sky estimate. This is about what we'll spend. Okay, we're going to spend a $1.3 trillion deficit this year. We're going to bring in $1.3 trillion less than what we spend. Okay, that's astronomical. Okay, we got to cut back on that. And the reason it's such a big deal is this right here. In a free market, businesses can borrow money that has been saved, right? Banks have savings that we put into the bank, and that money is then available to be borrowed, right? Okay, but when the government runs deficits, it's called the crowding out effect, because it borrows money from the free market that could have been used for businesses, right? That money is no longer available, so it shifts the supply of savings to the left. What does that do to the amount of loans available in our country? They go down. You want to know why businesses don't have money? You hear it all the time on the news. Businesses don't have money. There's no money to borrow, right? They're tightened credit. Banks haven't tightened credit, per se. That's part of it. But what's really happened is they're not giving out as many loans because there aren't as many loans to give out. Government has tightened credit and tied banks' hands, and then they've, in turn, had to tighten their rules because there's less money. They got to make sure that every dollar they loan out pans out correctly. So government deficits destroy businesses' opportunities to borrow money. What do they do to interest rates? They go up. Now you say, Chard, interest rates are low right now. They're really low. Well, why are they low? It's because the Federal Reserve continues to pour money into the system. They continue to loan banks money at fraction of a percent, 0 to 0.25%. How much do you get in your savings account right now? Half percent if you're lucky. Well, here's why. Why would they pay you 0.5% when they can pay the government 0.25%? See what I'm saying? So, all of this is where it gets really dishonest. And I'll get right to your question, sir. Is when the Republicans say, we promise not to raise your taxes, I yell at the TV, liar. Or idiot. One of the two. Because some of them really believe that they are not raising your taxes. Those are the idiots. Others know that by running a budget deficit, they are raising your future taxes. Are they not?
Absolutely.
Okay? So it's very, very dishonest. Okay? It's intellectually dishonest and it's taking advantage of voters, and I've had enough of it. And that's why I love coming to groups like this and sharing the cold, hard facts with people. Because it's sickening.